They said I could have a refund on my $88 parking thing.
Thank God, I felt so bad.
That's your fault as well.
Yeah,
What was
well,
that from?
that's why I felt bad.
We were going to the city in last Tuesday, and then we were parking, and I wanted to pay at the parking machine, and then Arian's like, no, mate,
Just use
save $3, use the app.
Save $3 an hour.
An hour, use the app. And then I was like, well, I like to use the machine, you know. I'm a bit old fashioned like that. I like to go to the bank, I like to do those things in person. And then obviously just listen to him use the app, left, didn't cancel my parking. This is at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, get a notification. Hey, are you still parking? Check it, cancel it, $88.
That always happens to me.
I know.
It's also because I'm terrible at using technology, and so, you know, it always backfires.
Well, I just always forget, like, just do the machine. Bring back coins, bring back machines, bring back meter people.
Virtually every time I've been to the city in this last year, I've ended up with a ticket.
Wow.
Once was with you, but that was my fault.
Oh, yeah.
That was my fault.
What was
I
that?
remember when we filmed that day, eh?
Yeah, we did a podcast with someone, and
Something happened, eh?
just
Parking ticket.
Yeah, got a ticket.
I actually hate parking wardens, eh? And this is the thing. I've never met a parking warden. And let me contextualize this. I was a barber for close to a decade.
Wow.
I met a lot of people from every profession. I never met someone who admitted they were a parking warden. I reckon they lie. I reckon they lie about it. Why would you admit that?
They work in traffic management.
Oh, yeah. When they're not stooges of the CCP, they're also working in traffic management.
Oh, there you go.
That's an in joke.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, it's like, no one's going to admit that because automatically you're off on the wrong foot. Because now I'm thinking, did you give me my last ticket?
When I finished uni,
Yeah.
I used to drive in because I was always too late getting the bus in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'd drive in, and then I ended up with so many parking tickets that when I went to go, graduate, and I was about to head overseas to go work overseas, the tickets had mounted up, and I probably wouldn't be able to leave the country.
Whoa.
And so I had to go into the council and pay them all off in one go in a
days.
lump sum.
You should have paid them off in like 20-cent pieces.
I had about a dozen at that point, but I'd already paid others
Far
off.
out.
Yeah, it was
Did
crazy.
they not get debt collectors on you by then?
I was trying to
Well, I
explain
was
this-
getting
I was trying to
notifications
explain
saying, hurry up, otherwise you won't be able to leave the country. I tried to avoid getting to that stage where the debt collectors send me a notification. But the council had told me if I didn't pay, I could potentially face further action and not be able to leave the country. So
Bro, those guys
I
are
thought-
liars.
Wow.
I better do it.
Those guys are liars. I know people that don't pay their fees.
This is a long time ago. Just saying. This is
I
more than
don't
20
get-
years
I was
ago.
trying to explain this to Arian.
More than 20 years ago. I've changed.
You know, there's a whole subculture of people who don't respond or respect parking fees.
Yeah.
They also don't vote.
I want to join that.
I'm
people.
quite familiar with
Why?
that.
I want to join that group
That's
because they're all liars, bro.
What do you mean?
If they're private companies, what power do they have to come after me?
The power vested in them by the law.
Bylaws?
No.
Yeah.
I'm a sovereign citizen of New
Oh,
Zealand.
my goodness.
Okay.
We know that
Don't.
you're
Oh my
not.
goodness.
You're not.
No. You
Hey,
gotta pay
when
your
I was
parking
at the
ticket.
Parliament grounds protest, did I tell you I went to the parliamentary protest? Because
Did I see you in Fire and Fury, did I?
No. So because I lived down the road on the terrace. This is when I was living in
Really?
Wellington. Yeah.
Whoa.
So like during that period of time, it was like crazy because I was literally less than a kilometer away. I would have been maybe like 700 meters away. And I said to two of my friends, we when we were working for the church, we had Mondays off, so we were hanging out. I said, honestly, I reckon we should go have a look because this is a part of New Zealand history. Like something like this has never happened in my lifetime.
Springbok protests of 81.
Yeah, so we like decided we'll walk into town, get a coffee, and we'll go to the protest. And when we got there, they had just put out these huge concrete bollards to stop anyone else from joining. And there was like police everywhere, and there's heaps of people. And there was like a marquee that they had put up right on the parliamentary steps, and people were doing talks and giving speeches. When we got there was someone who was giving a sermon, and it was like quite a hilarious sermon, to be honest. But we were watching, but we were all had taken masks with us, and we didn't wear them because no one else is wearing a mask. And we were like, if we put a mask on, we're gonna stick out like a sore thumb. And at this time, like most Kiwis, I didn't even think twice about COVID. I was like, oh yeah, the government. They've said that we have to do this. It sounds fine, I guess. I'm not too bothered. I want to keep my job. I want to make sure other people are safe. It wasn't until like way after the point that I became a little bit more critical of the response.
Yeah.
But I remember being there, and all the news was like, these people are river of filth. These people are disgusting. Da 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 da. And there's some interesting characters there, but overall, it was like really peaceful, like really nice, really friendly,
people,
really friendly. And the day we left was the day that it kicked off. So we went and then we left, and like an hour after we left, the police came and shut it down.
So you didn't see the actual
No.
shutdown.
We missed it by an hour.
What's the story of the whole? Because I was quite young.
Yeah, you're at school, eh?
So what was the story of the parliamentary protest? Like
I always
what,
forget that
what
you're
kicked
young.
it off? Yeah. Sorry,
Were
guys.
you born?
It's all right. No, don't.
I,
Sorry.
I was
Point.
born.
Don't apologize for your age.
I was born, but I know that there was this big protest
yeah.
that happened, but I don't know the story. I don't know why it happened. I don't know.
Because
seen
of the
pictures.
mandates.
Right.
The mandates were probably one of the biggest things.
The
So,
COVID mandate.
COVID mandates. So especially the vaccine mandates, no jab, no job. A lot of people who didn't want the vaccine
Yeah.
were being forcefully removed from employment or
Yeah.
deregistered as nurses and doctors
Yeah,
and
yeah,
teachers. All these things, like it was, looking back, was shocking. And
No,
it was
People were
bad.
angry they'd been, unable to go to tangi and funerals, and
Mm.
hadn't been able to get married during the lockdowns or during the
yeah.
restrictions. I mean, people have been separated in different parts of the country, particularly if you were in Auckland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually crazy.
So did they? Because you had the lockdowns and people couldn't go outside and things.
Mm.
So that they broke that for the sake of the protest.
Well, the
Presumably.
protest wasn't at a point where you couldn't go outside. You
okay.
couldn't.
Mm.
Well, you could always go outside for a walk, but the
Yeah,
point
yeah,
was
but
during the
Only
lockdown.
one. You're only allowed to go for one walk.
Well, that's right. After a while, they started clamping down on
That's
that too.
crazy, man.
You weren't allowed at one point to talk to your neighbours over the fence.
But
Yeah.
the other crazy thing was the government refused to come out and talk to them. Who was it? Todd
Trevor Mallard.
Trevor
Trevor
Mallard.
Mallard,
He was the
that's
Speaker of the
right,
House.
Speaker of the House. And
He turned the sprinklers on.
turned the sprinklers on, played music, blasted them with lights
To take them out of the
to
place.
try and get rid of them.
Yeah.
And-
blasted them with like literal air weapons.
Is this after they got aggressive? After the protest?
no,
No,
was
no, no, no.
aggressive. It
They're
was
all they were all
peaceful.
peaceful at
There
that
was
point.
no
They were
one
all
at the
down in
protest.
they're all down in Parliament grounds,
Yeah.
and the Speaker of the House, Trevor Mallard, came out, and he would stand on the balcony and kind of look over them, and then eventually he got tired of it, and so he turned the sprinklers on to try and drive them away. Of course, they just laughed and figured out how to adapt, and then he turned on like the loudspeakers, and he was playing, was it Baha Men?
Something like that.
Who let the dogs out? I don't know.
They bought out this.
like
they
annoying.
bought-
Crazy
Kids
Frog.
yeah. Well, did you see they bought out that truck as well that was used for sort of crowd control, protest control, and they blasted people with what I can only describe it as like a sonic weapon.
Whoa.
But people were getting smoked and like nosebleeds, like hearing loss. Like it was crazy.
What the heck?
Yeah, and for me, I was like, I want to go see this
Yeah.
in real life. Is it as bad as what is on the news? And
So when you said so you went and then you said after you guys when it kicked off, you mean it kicked off from the government side?
yeah, the
not-
police
not
just
from the
started
people?
marching them down.
Well,
the
it
police
went
just
for
separated
over.
off.
Was it 2 weeks in the end?
Whoa.
Might have been. Was it longer?
I could have
I
been.
feel like it was long.
Yeah.
And like no one from like mainstream media or the parliament wanted to speak to them properly.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
where a lot of these independent journalists sort of sprouted out from. A lot of people who do a lot of commentary, RCR, and even the
Ah.
platform to a degree.
Yeah.
Wow.
They all were birthed out of this sort of dead spot that the media created
Fight the
around
mandate. Yeah.
one of the most
Well,
significant.
the platform didn't come out of that because I think the platform were always a bit more skeptical of the claims made by anti-vax.
Yeah. But the platform in essence was like, there's no free speech in the media at the moment. There's no
Yeah,
true Kiwi voice. And yeah, definitely motivated, not so much by anti-vax mandates, but
But it was all part of that time, yeah.
yeah. So we left literally, and there was a live feed that you could watch on either RNZ
Yeah.
or one of those
yeah.
sites. There's like a live feed,
Flip.
and the riot squad showed up. They just showed up. They pepper spraying people, and then once that started, then people started chucking stuff back, and it was like hectic. But you can watch some of the footage, like people
yeah,
getting
I'll
like
go watch.
Well,
coal
there's
on the
two
ground
documentaries
and-
about it.
Yeah.
So Fire and Fury and River of Freedom.
Okay.
So Fire and Fury was made, I think, by staff. Paula Penfold was behind that project.
Wow.
And then was it Galen Preston,
the River of Freedom.
River of Freedom?
Yeah.
So she made that independently.
Well done.
And that showed in cinemas around the country.
Around the
actually,
country.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Really,
on
really
it.
amazing
Yeah, yeah,
documentaries.
yeah.
Like everyone should watch them because it was such a moment in time.
Both of them?
Historic.
Both of them. Yeah, mate, if you got time. Speaking of watching, my TV broke, so I won't be watching them. Do you notice my TV's gone?
Yeah, still.
For all the listeners who are watching Nick's camera right now.
Yeah. This is
Mate.
week 3 of it being gone, isn't it? Or
No,
week
week
2?
two. I was playing Mario Kart with the boys, and then it broke.
Yeah,
When I say
you
the
said-
boys as well, I just want to contextualize my children.
Yeah.
I don't have a bunch of other 30-year-old guys who come over and we play
Men.
Mario Kart together, playing with a 6-year-old and a
Is that a
3-year-old.
bit lame, isn't it?
Well, firstly, I'm not in my parents' basement. I am in the house that I live
Your
in
own
with my
house.
family.
Well done.
But I just want to contextualize before there's a narrative out there that I'm a grouper, some sort of incel.
Absolutely not an incel.
Have we talked about incels?
No, we maybe mentioned them once.
I
But
just,
you know what it stands for.
yeah,
right?
I know, but that's
yeah.
why I used to hear about incels and be like, oh, it's like so ominous.
Yeah.
What does it stand for, Aaron?
Involuntarily celibate.
Involuntary celibacy.
Celibates.
Which is like
Virgin,
takes
basically.
all of the power away out of it, I think. When you realize that these guys are involuntary celibate, they become a lot less threatening in my view. I'm
Right,
like,
right.
oh, okay.
There's been interesting research done about them.
Yeah.
They don't statistically pose the kind of threat that people have claimed they did.
Oh, they're Trump boys, are they?
What do you mean?
Remember when the
PPTA.
yeah,
came out.
PPTA, the PPTA,
I mean,
Yeah, it was.
what?
They came out saying
Post-primary
what
teachers
yeah,
association.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
Oh yes, of
The
course.
conference, they come out and they're like,
absolutely, that's
One
right.
of the biggest issues facing New Zealand
Yes.
was this Trump boys, and then their rep went on the platform, and Sean was like, "So, how'd you guys work this out with the research?" And he's like, "No research." He's like,
We can just
Well,
tell.
yeah,
There's
you-
a vibe.
That was just because the Netflix film Adolescence
Adolescence,
come
yeah.
out, and so they wanted to jump on that bandwagon.
well, I hate that show.
Stupid.
That show was so stupid.
Look, when I was teaching, I used to have, there were a few boys in my classes that would come up and say, "What do you think about, Andrew Tate?" And I'd be like, "Look,
Wow.
from what I've seen of Andrew Tate, he's a total loser. Like, he just wants to get around dominating women and, talking trash."
So someone kind of Aryan likes him, I think.
Not even. Don't, this is false. This is misinformation.
Aryan's going to shave his head,
fake
start
news.
kickboxing.
I'm going to join your side, Arian,
Thank
and
you.
just push
Thank
back
you
on
so
this.
much.
On
I
this,
need to.
these lies and
It's hard
slander
to fight.
that
It's
Nathan's
just getting
spreading.
so hard.
Whoa,
You keep
whoa,
pushing
hey.
me into this dark.
Arian's
dark side of
the
world.
most gentlemanly
Oh, guys.
character around.
Guys. So
We can't
kind.
fix a lie with a lie. Okay? Can't go down this pathway.
Like, I will say he is quite buff. To be fair to him,
don't
Andrew.
say
No,
that.
no. Okay.
Hey, I'm not going to defend you if you make statements like that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Pause. Pause.
There.
Do you mean he
okay.
buffs his bald head?
He does probably buff his.
Yeah,
bald head,
okay.
But he is also
Let's
quite,
leave it at that.
quite strong.
Good save.
Um,
Good save.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I did see this type of, like phenomenon with some teenage boys where they would be looking at this stuff, and it was purely as a reaction to a lot of the other stuff that they were being told all the time about
Yeah.
how, especially young white males are the problem, and you
Yeah.
know, and so these young white males would be like, well, stuff that, you
Yeah.
know, I don't want to be put in this kind of category. Most of them just weren't even thinking that way until they were told that they were toxic. And then they started saying, well, all right, then I'll just, go and find the most toxic thing I can find.
But that's the part of the equation that we don't often talk about is, the young boys are becoming more and more toxic. Well, actually, research shows that young girls are also equally going further and further to the left, to where it's all about feelings, emotions, not about facts at all. It's becoming more about gender identity and ideology. Why do we never bring that up? And then there's another sect in there where it's like cultural idolatry. I am this ethnicity, therefore I should be entitled to these things and should be exempt from other things and other expectations and responsibilities.
I feel like we just wound back all the progress that was made under like Martin Luther King in the 1960s with desegregation. It's like, and apparently, we want to go back to pre.
But that's where a lot of these cultural movements move to. It's like, we've been oppressed in the past. We've been hard done by. Equality is not enough. Now we need our own spaces again. So at the university, they've got a multi-Pacific space. And in the US, they have black-only dorms. And they're like, well, we deserve this. It's like, your ancestors marched
fought
so that you didn't
fight.
Oh, you want your own water fountains?
Yeah.
You should, if you find a time machine, go 100 years ago. You can have it again. It's great. You were at school more recently than obviously Nick and I are. Oh, you were a teacher, but as a student, what was your feeling like as a young guy? You're at co-ed, eh?
Yeah. I was at a co-ed school. Boys like jokes. We joke about everything, and the boys say racist things. They say homosexual, homophobic. And this is quite frankly, this is just
Hold on. Do they say homosexual and homophobic things? Or
yeah, they do. No, seriously,
They do. I know what you mean by that. Yeah.
But it goes both ways.
Oh, it's like when you're in a scrum and
With the
like
boys,
you're
yeah.
at rugby training and you pat someone's bum.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
that whole.
The boys.
Yeah.
They say that.
When I say you, as I never did that, but I'm just saying that other.
You know what they say?
A
They
lot of the
say-
guys do that and they think it's funny.
the boys who act the gayest are the straightest because they're comfortable to do that. I don't believe that because I think that's just
There's a lot of reverse
that's a
psychology
very,
in that. I think,
very
but, yeah.
slippery slope.
But here you are, right?
Yeah, because what happens is like,
you're really digging a hole here,
No,
man.
I'm not digging it home. I'm just saying it how it is, and the young men who are listening will agree with me.
Okay.
But anyway, regardless, there is an element of just joking around,
Yeah.
and then
And there's always a shock factor too, right?
Yeah.
But who can
just
say
wants
the
to be
most
funny.
outrageous thing?
Yes.
Most people listening, and maybe there's the exception, but most people listening are like, "Oh yeah, that's funny because you went out there, you said the thing that's taboo."
Yeah.
And there's a shock value in doing
Yes.
that, and so that's
Yes.
often considered
Yes.
funny. And a lot of people who aren't at that age or necessarily male
Yes.
will look at that and go, "Well, that's very concerning. Why would you
Yes.
do that?" Because there's a different sensitivity. I think, again, stereotyping, but generally speaking, women have a different sensitivity to that type of thing.
Yeah.
If they're around it enough, though, they get the point and they understand when it's happening. Right?
But in those exact same groups that make these silly jokes, the moment someone says something that is intentionally made to hurt someone's feelings, the other boys will say, "Well, hold on, stop." Like in my experience, if it's just a general joke, everyone laughs along. The moment it's intended to hurt feelings, and you can kind of tell in a small group of 5 people,
You
like,
can
oh,
tell, eh?
you're just trying to be hurtful.
That's an interesting distinction, though. Like, you can tell in a small group of 5. It's really hard to tell online,
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
which is where I think a lot of this.
Or tone, all of that's
Yeah.
missing, right? You
Exactly.
don't hear the verbal, kind of
There's-
the other levels of communication that go on the other layers.
this whole thing of like, when we talk about hate speech laws and not hurting or offending people, generally speaking, it's nice to not be someone who desires to hurt feelings, generally speaking.
Only a psychopath goes around
exactly.
trying to hurt people's feelings.
You can do that. I don't know who said it, but you can do that if there's you and I are talking. I can kind of measure that, or there's 3 of us, 5 of us. It's a little bit more difficult. 10 of us, a little bit more difficult. If there's 1,000 people in the room and I say something, I'm bound to hurt someone's feelings, right? Because there's just 1,000 people in the room, and if I say something,
When you say hurt someone's feelings, do you
Or
think
offend,
you'd
sorry,
really
so-
hurt their feelings? Or do you think they might intellectually say that's not the sort of thing someone should really say if they were being considerate? And so, in theory, they're kind of objecting to it and imagining maybe on someone else's behalf that you've insulted them. I think that's more
totally
often the
part
case.
of it as well. Yeah, totally. Right? Yeah. Hurting feelings, causing offense.
Yeah.
All of that. As the population you're speaking to grows, you're bound to do that. And this is why we say hate speech laws and things like that don't work, because you can't legislate human interaction.
But this I heard this argument the other day around the No Kings protest, and someone was like, "Can you believe there was 100,000 people that went to the No Kings protest in this area? Like, that's a real mandate. That shows that they have power behind them." And the person who the argument was being made to was like, "This how many, like 300 million people in America?
More than that, yeah.
Yeah.
340.
If you get 100 people in a room," and he goes, "If you get 100 people in a room, guarantee you, it's going to be at least one idiot." So gathering 100,000 idiots in a country like America, it's not that hard to do. So in the same sense,
But remember, and I saw this like firsthand because
you
remember
were
how
there. You drove through the middle of it.
drove slowly and carefully through the protest that I had just stumbled
Got it
across.
saving yourself. Yeah.
Where it was happening, there were very large gatherings. But I don't want to distract from your point.
No, but so I'm saying in terms of our it's like the larger your audience, the more likely you are to run foul of a certain sentiment or group. So
Yeah, I was going to
that's
say
what I'm saying,
just before on that whole matter of guys and banter and what's really meant by it. And I mean, like I've got a good mate who whenever I see him, like when we see each other, my wife always is like, "How come you guys talk to each other that way?" But it's because like we'll walk up to each other and we'll be like, we'll pat the other one on the tummy and go, "Oh, I've been enjoying the pies lately." Like it's always, we always make fun of each other, like whether it's to do with our stomachs getting bigger or whatever. But it's actually it's sort of a term of affection, like or a way, a manner
Trust.
of sort of building. I don't know what's the word, but banter amongst guys is usually a way of actually kind of increasing that bond that you have.
Yes. Yeah.
So-
if I've never said anything absolutely offensive to you, we're not actually friends.
Yeah.
You hardly ever offend me, so I feel.
No, I always say offensive things to you. You want me to give a few now? I've got a list. Actually. We're getting a lot of anti-Semitic comments at the moment.
do.
We get a lot of anti-Semitic comments.
We're not even Jewish.
No, but they're not to
Everyone
us.
just-
They're just
yeah.
about our ideas in general because they think our ideas are formed by the Jewish Illuminati.
Oh, right.
Or that we're just misinformed, and the actual problem is the Jews.
Yeah.
They're like,
Those
no,
are just Russian bots. Though.
No.
I'm not going to try and like push back on that because I think that those claims that people make are absurd. But it's not to say that Mossad haven't been like some of the most successful in terms of
Yeah,
espionage and
counterintelligence,
surveillance and all that,
espionage.
and counterintelligence. Yeah.
Have you
But,
ever read the book Son of Hamas?
I've got it on my shelf at home. Yes, I do.
That book was crazy. That's right. That book was crazy just because of the way he talks about Mossad and
Yeah.
how he got sort of bought into the Israeli intelligence system.
Oh, is this the son of the head of the Hamas?
Yeah, the son of one.
Yeah,
of
I
the
always get his
founders.
name wrong, but is it Mossab?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Find his
we'll
name.
just call him
Jamie,
Mossab.
pull it up.
that's a really good book though.
Oh, it's a fantastic book, and he's pretty deadly in his debating. Like
Yeah, he is, but I just see him yelling at a lot of people
Oh,
often.
Mossab Hassan Yusuf.
Yeah.
Mossab Hassan Yusuf. That's the guy. Yeah, yes, if you can just look past the rough edges in terms of his arguments. His
No,
arguments are absolutely like
His arguments are good, but I just find he often descends into yelling quite early on.
maybe that's just a cultural thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, we had a rough upbringing. to be
well, if you
fair.
read the book, mate, you'd know. If you read the
Wow.
book, you
I
should
didn't
read the
read
book.
it,
It's
did I?
really good. It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good.
Actually, in the US, the title is The Green Prince.
Oh,
Oh, really?
Mm.
Princess
Censoring
and
him.
the Frog.
No, it's just the Americans like to often come up with their own titles.
Is that right?
Yeah. With the first Harry Potter book,
Oh,
UK.
Sorcerer's Stone, eh?
It was the Philosopher's Stone in the
Yeah.
UK, Sorcerer's Stone in US. There you go. Just a little bit of trivia.
I appreciate it.
On
Yeah.
the Jews though. As,
Yes.
as we're
Go on,
discussing
Tucker.
it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, this is Nick Foyles.
no. We
Yeah,
don't
he
like
brings that name Nick into disrepute.
I just because of the comments that we're seeing,
Yeah,
and people saying, "Oh, it's the Jews." I thought I should just go and watch a documentary about the rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party.
Oh, yeah, you told me about this.
And I was just watching it, and they would show posters of people putting graffiti on the walls, in Germany, and saying, "Oh, it's the Jews." And I was like, "This is literally what I'm seeing."
Yeah.
It's the exact same rhetoric. It's the same tone. It was scary. I was like, "What's going on?"
These people are at the
This is
point where
so
it's like
weird.
they're gonna stub their toe and be like, "The Jews."
Yeah. And
Like,
one thing-
why is everything the Jews' fault? Apparently,
But also too, I mean, and I know that there are genuine people, like actual people. I don't say genuine people, actual people who are beginning to really push this kind of rhetoric, online and in the real world. But how much of the volume is actually real people, and how much potentially is, bots like from China? Russia and China have huge like bot farms in terms of what they're trying to push volume wise over the internet.
I think what did I see the other day? That X released some numbers. They think there's about 100 million bot accounts on X alone. And then I saw some stats come out around which foreign nations were funding certain influencers on TikTok. Did you see this?
Yes,
And
so
it was like Qatar, China, Saudi, all these places. I
Russia.
think Israel had funded 4 creators
Yes, it was how much money they'd given to
like-
how many creators.
at like $180,000 over 4, and they were like number 9 on the list, or even lower.
That's right. Yeah.
And
And
there's-
towards the bottom.
And then literally the first comment was like, "This is probably from the Jews anyway. They don't want you to know the truth."
Well, the thing is, there are people, and this has been true, well before the internet even was invented. So there have always been people who are very passionately in support of, the Jewish cause. And when it came to being a distinct people, surviving, of course, the Holocaust, and then the question of whether they have a homeland, and then with the establishment of Israel. So a lot of people just go, "Oh yeah, well, there's always been this, very strong, pro-Israel Jewish lobby in the States." But the point is that there have always been a lot of people who are very sympathetic to the cause of Jewish, statehood, of Israel being a nation, and so. People don't have to have religious reasons for it, whether they're from, the sort of evangelical Christian circles, or whether they are, say Orthodox Jews or whatever. There are a lot of people who have been sympathetic to that cause, and a lot of people who would do it for nothing, for no money. This whole idea that people are doing this because they're getting $7,000 every time they,
We're not getting 7,000.
do a plug for Israel, is just like crazy. I mean, any country could do that potentially, and try and sponsor some of the stuff, and many countries do, but it just underestimates the actual level of kind of concern and loyalty for the Jewish people.
Yes.
When I say loyalty, I mean just a kind of commitment to a group of people that could have been wiped off the face of the earth numerous times throughout history, and have faced that kind of like existential
genuine
threat.
support, right? Douglas Murray said it in his debate that if the Jewish people disappeared overnight, that would be significant because they've seen from Pharaoh through to Hitler through to now Trump. They've been a very consistent thread through history.
Yeah.
And if they just disappeared,
Yeah, the
world
story
would
of
really
Esther,
feel
you know?
it. Yeah.
I mean, under the Persians, they could have been wiped out. And there's just so many instances where they face this kind of existential threat.
Yeah.
Cyrus the Great, though, the great Persian, he let them go back to their homeland, just standing up for the Persians, just quickly, as a Persian. No, Cyrus the Great. Yeah.
Persian, right?
He's
Cool.
Yeah. Just wanted to say. Just wanted to pipe up quickly on behalf of
Please,
Iran.
let's go ahead.
But otherwise, yes.
That's good. That's good. Well, okay, so we've sorted it. No more anti-Semitism. We've fixed that problem. Put it on the shelf.
No. But that's just our opening salvo, right?
We had a listener of the podcast say that they'd love to hear more about you guys individually and why you guys are vested in this type of work and what's brought you here and why you care about this work and how your life stories have led you to this point. I thought it might be good to hear about your life experiences.
Yeah,
because I think it'll help our listeners connect. If it's
Go on, Mr. Seal.
my life is it's been a journey. You know, it's been good.
Everyone's lives have been journeys. Carry on.
Well, hey, to the listener who asked this question, appreciate your support and your viewership. Hopefully, you're enjoying the podcast.
Thank you for being Arian's friend.
Thank you for being Arian's friend. When he says my friend,
far and few, but
it's more like his mum was like, "Who are these guys you keep hanging out with
weirdos
every day?"
Are they a bad influence on you?
Yeah, they're bad. Why are you hanging out with these two weird
Too much
old
support
guys?
for Israel, man. What's
Go on.
going on?
Take us on the journey, Nathan. Go on.
Nah, great. Yeah, so I'm from Dunedin, actually. A lot of people don't know that. Born and raised in Dunedin. So
Sorry to hear that.
man, I love Dunedin. Dunedin's great. I couldn't live there.
Were you born there?
Yeah, I was born there, born and raised.
Wow.
You must love it a lot if you can't live there anymore.
Nah, well, you didn't let me finish my sentence. I couldn't live there right now.
Okay.
I think that the stage of life that I'm at with a young family and the work
You're
that
too
we're
mature
doing.
for Dunedin, no way.
No, but the work that we're doing. Mate, who am I going to meet with in Dunedin?
True.
Who am I going to... Hey, let's have a chat about civil liberties in Dunedin. You know who's there?
Grant
Nobody.
Robertson. Yeah.
Well, Grant Robinson is there. Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
But yeah, from Dunedin, grew up there, got one sister, got my parents, and then moved to Wellington in 2021 with my wife and Ezra, my oldest. Then we had Zeke there, he's our middle child. And then we moved to Auckland in 2022 when we had our third son, Elisha. And I've been a barber, I've been a builder, I've been a pastor.
Wow.
I've worked in retail.
Did you do building?
Yeah, very briefly, like building
Wow.
these outdoor roofs.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that scary guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
gang
yeah,
member.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
he wasn't scary to me. He was very cool. He was a very nice guy. But he was scary to other people.
I was never scared.
I was scared once,
Yeah.
but he was nice to me. You would have been scared.
Oh,
Mate.
yeah,
Trust me, he was a
100%.
mess. So yeah. What about builder, pastor, barber? Now obviously working in this space for the last over 3 years now, and yeah. I think is that
No,
any
no,
other
no,
specific
please.
questions?
No,
You're my
there's
ID
no-
number. You're my,
Sorry. Maybe next episode we can get
my
your,
NHI number.
yeah, next episode, your digital ID number.
yeah.
Next.
But no, and then Pillar. Obviously,
You
we
birthed it. Yeah.
well, we co-founded Pillar as a team nearly 3 months ago, which is really cool. And our goal is, we've said it heaps, but just to hopefully bring forth some optimism by defending core rights, core freedoms, by being moderate, credible, reasonable, transparent, and operating with integrity. And we really just believe in democracy. I know it's not in the greatest shape that it could be right now, and there's a lot of people who are making that very clear to us. But we're optimistic. We think that we can move forward. So my hope is that I'll create a better New Zealand for my children. But I suppose I've walked us through my journey to the point where we meet. Why don't you walk us through your journey to the point where we meet and tell it from your perspective?
Born and raised in East Auckland, from a family that just loved to question everything, somewhat argumentative just by temperament, and then also on principle. Like, it was always encouraged in our family that we question everything, that we always have reasons, evidence for claims that we might make about something. We were always encouraged at the dinner table to talk about stuff that was going on in the world, politics, philosophy, you name it. And my dad was kind of a man of science, but also a man of faith. And I always found that really interesting because, often people try to make this kind of dichotomous
Yeah.
statement that, you can't be both. But no, he showed me that everything that he did, whether it was science or faith, he actually thought through critically. He thought about it for himself. who always wanted to understand what the evidence was, what the arguments were, did it make sense? And so in a way, I mean, I didn't follow him into the sciences, but that kind of critical approach, not critical theory in the sense of that, the school of thought that came out of Europe in the 20s and 30s, but just general critical thinking really shaped me growing up. Before I went to uni, I did a year overseas and traveled a whole lot of places, and started doing a lot of reading of my own before I got to uni, because I wanted, again, with this critical thinking emphasis in my family, I wanted to get my own ideas established first. So I had a sense of who I was and what I really did want and what I did believe, because I knew that once I got to uni, that would be challenged, and that it would be very tempting to kind of listen to the person with the most letters after their name. But when I did get there, and having done a lot of my own reading already to at least give myself a little bit of a grounding in different subjects like philosophy, it made me realize that sometimes people can become real specialists in a very niche area, and that's typically where academia has gone. But more generally, people can't actually argue across various domains of knowledge. And so met my wife, did some more study, did some postgraduate study in politics. And I guess then we had family. So we've got 2 daughters who are 12 and 8 now. And at that point, when I had sort of like a young family, I thought maybe teaching is a good idea. So I went into teaching. I taught for about 5 or 6 years. How teaching young people to think about how they think. And it struck me that we were moving into a kind of a cultural and intellectual moment, which was actually quite scary, and that there was a reluctance to talk about certain topics, and that's largely at that point, for various reasons, I kind of stopped teaching, because I wanted to have a little bit of a break, first of all, and as I did, and I was helping my dad who'd had a heart attack and stuff, and it was at that point that I started kind of following the work of the FSU, because a friend of mine had been on the involved in sort of forming it in the first place. And I started following it more closely, and then met Nathan and Jonathan and the rest of the team. And it was because I had seen this shift in education just in probably a few years before that moment, where I was like, man, this is really, really concerning. The brightest young people in this country who are about to go off and get, like a scholarship to Harvard and to Oxford and so on, they don't want to talk about certain topics because they're afraid. So that was a big motivation for me, getting involved with the free speech movement. And then, of course, getting involved now with Pillar and doing what we're doing now is because I've always recognized free speech as absolutely a fundamental aspect of a democracy. But there are many issues, specific issues now that I think we've encountered through our work at the FSU, and I felt we can't ignore them. Someone needs to be talking about some of these issues in New Zealand. Sorry, I talked for ages.
No,
I am older,
that's the
so
story.
I've just, been around longer, so there's a lot more that's happened.
A lot of life. That's an interesting point that I think, and I think Nathan says this a lot when we're meeting people, that people who have lived life or have seen other cultures or even traveled, they're far more grateful for the democracy and the culture, for what we have.
Arian, next time we're going to put you under the microscope. We're going to do a deep dive into
there's not much life
into
Arian.
guys
here.
No.
Something you mentioned though, Nick.
You've lived some very interesting, experiences.
You can tell us about your experience in the Iranian schooling system and the pledge that you made every morning.
Yeah.
Nick,
Anyway.
something you mentioned in your summary there, just to bring it back.
Please.
Yeah. Talk about digital ID. Isn't that conspiracy? Isn't that a lie? Where are you living, mate? The Matrix.
Is digital identification a conspiracy?
Apparently, according to some of the comments we're getting.
Well, it's being introduced in countries like the UK. It's being proposed here in New Zealand.
Debunked.
Is that conspiratorial? It's been reported in all the major newspapers.
We're doing it. India's already got it. Ethiopia's looking on it.
Well, Africa's looking at doing a unified digital thing for them.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting to see if they can get that across the line. Africa's so massive, eh? So many different nations in Africa.
So many people.
To get a continent like Africa on board with one system would be a mammoth task.
Sure.
But if anyone can do it,
it'll be them.
It's China.
I was going to say,
it won't be them. Won't be the Africans.
If I was an African, leader, I would just be like, let's just outsource to China on this question. They've done it. They've proven that they can control the population.
You seen this an article yesterday, Arian, about the Indian digital verification system that they exposed?
I think it was Philippines I think it was the Philippines because they also have a digital ID system. But essentially, a malware company just hackers essentially,
Yeah.
set up an identical one and said, this is the app.
Yeah.
And people went and signed up and put all their details in. And then that application that they downloaded looked like the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But it installed a malware thing on your device that could just track everything, could see what you're typing, could see all your logins and everything.
We laugh, but it could have just as easily.
I mean,
happened
that's
to
what
us.
the digital world is. Yeah,
You would have had this as well when you go to like a third world country and you have to apply for like a e-visa.
Yeah.
And you look up e-visa for whatever country you're going to.
Yeah.
It's like 30 websites and you don't know which one is the real one. I had that when I go to India. And then I've had people who applied for New Zealand e-visas for tours and be like, yeah, only $200. I'm like, wait, how much did you pay? Because it's not $200, it's like $20.
Yeah.
So this sort of site or sort of
Well, let's just go back to the dirty word that you used at the beginning.
that
I was
one.
going to say
That one.
No, the conspiracy, you know.
Oh, yeah,
Because straight away, that's what pops into people's minds
Yeah,
when we start
exactly.
talking about the subject. At what point, though, are we getting into conspiracy theory territory, as in speculation that can't really be grounded in
Yeah.
evidence that's available to the public?
Yeah.
Okay. At what point do we get into that territory? Because there must be a lot of things that we can widely agree on with people that people are aware of already.
But this is the problem. There's all these people who are not aware because they only get their information from, to be honest with you, mainstream media, legacy media, and they're not reporting these stories.
Well, let's just test this assertion that you're making then. So in New Zealand, we have Real Me.
Yeah.
Now, would you consider that digital ID?
A form of it, yeah.
Okay.
It's-
In what sense is it a form of digital ID?
you have to upload your physical identity documents,
Mhm.
affirm all the
What,
details
like
are correct.
your
passport,
face?
Passport
license,
photo,
they
driver's
do a
license.
biometric scan.
Yeah.
So,
So when you say biometric scan, they scan
Your
your
face.
eyes, they scan your face,
your face,
right?
so
Do
you
they?
do the different
Yeah.
angles,
Yeah.
this and that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Anyone who's done a
I
Real
think
Me account
yeah,
has
I've
got
had to
bought
do
in
this.
around 2017, 2018.
Yeah,
initially.
it's been around quite a while. No,
Yeah.
probably even further back than that.
I remember doing it in 2018,
Right.
just after we got married, because I had to do something around.
You know, it didn't start when you used it. Just
No,
confused.
yeah, exactly. So it probably has been around before that.
No, it has. It has. But the level of data capture has increased over that time.
and the-
so
and-
there's
and-
things they want you to submit.
This is one of the underpinning arguments of setting up a system
Yeah.
for collection, right? Because at the start, and this is what I was talking to Simon O'Connor about. At the start, it's this. Hey, only these people can access it. This is how much we need from you, and this is how we're going to use it. Once you opt into the system, you're in the system. And from there, they can expand their remit. They can outsource. They can bring in contractors. They can do whatever they want. You've already signed up to, in the T's and C's, in evolving capacity.
Yeah.
So with
So
the-
what, it's like pulling a thread, you know, and it just
Yeah.
keeps going and going and going. At what point do you just stop and cut it off, right?
exactly.
I guess my question then is, we already have a form of digital ID and say like Real Me.
Lots of different. Yeah.
Yeah. People might also argue that we have digital ID in a way with different types of social media or internet kind of contracts that you might
Yeah.
sign, where they are capturing certain amounts of your data, personal data. That might be considered to some degree digital ID.
But all of these things that you're outlining, sure. I've had people comment and be, I had to comment and say, I had to upload my license to Facebook in order to do X,
Yeah.
Y, Z.
Sure.
A lot of like paid marketing, you have to upload your ID.
Yeah.
The thing that exists underpinning all of the existing forms is the option to buy in, or the option to opt out.
Right.
Which in a digital trust framework, there is an opt out option at the
Right.
moment. The concerning thing is though that once you have the system set up for control, so Real Me, I would say, is a good example of testing compliance. The COVID passports was another good example of how many people can we get onto an app that they will voluntarily self-register themselves wherever they go. The company that developed that made it for Australia as well. It's a New Zealand-based company called Meta, M-A-T-T-R, and they're actually working on framework with a digital trust framework in mind for a shared New Zealand-Australia digital license. So all of these things exist, right? They do exist in some form. What doesn't exist though is a unified central system that once you're signed up to it, or once enough people are signed up to it, what's the chances or the likelihood of them coming out and saying, in fact, there's so many people who've opted into this, a majority even potentially, over like 51%, it's now mandatory and we're going to enforce it on everyone. We're getting rid of physical.
So then sort of the more analog, hard copy
Yeah.
form of ID is phased out because there's no one offering that service anymore at a physical
Exactly.
office somewhere.
But
You're
this-
suggesting that RealMe, still with RealMe, we have the option to not have RealMe, and you
Exactly,
can just
yeah.
log in through
Yeah, yeah.
other
Right.
means.
You
Yeah,
know, and so that's why all of this sounds like, oh, but you're operating off a worst case scenario. And sure, but why then did NZ First introduce a bill at the exact same time as the digital trust framework is started up and the digital driver's license is starting up? Why did they introduce a bill that would force physical identification to be a valid form of ID through all of these government systems, platforms, here, there, everywhere? So the coalition agreement obviously isn't being unanimous around digital ID. In fact, New Zealand First and ACT are not fans of age verification, identity verification, and digital ID.
Yep.
So they're putting in safeguards and clauses. I think that there is a good enough red flag for us to start wondering if a coalition partner is putting in safeguards or raising questions or disagreeing with the in principle. Why would the
Something
public
to look
then-
at.
Yeah, why would the public just jump at this?
Are we comfortable, or are you comfortable with a digital ID framework where we do have the digital ID system, but we also just moving forward in the long term, we also have the non-digital ID framework where you can just submit?
I don't think we can avoid it. I think
because in my head, I think it's coming,
yeah,
whether you like
we're
it
in
or
a digital
not.
world, but it's that issue where it goes
It's
from
choice.
being it's choice, where it goes from being an option to the standard, the only option, and it's the whole thing of like a lot of these things are brought forward for choice and convenience, but we've seen that they can very quickly become not about choice or convenience. So the under 16s, right, is a subjective gate to the online world. Now, the thing that is subjective at this age is, are you the right age? But what happens if that becomes, do you have the right ideas, or are you the right kind of person? It's not
Could that
impossible.
not happen though outside of a digital system? Could you
In
not
what
still
sense?
still have that risk?
Like if you want to use the shopping center, you have to submit your passport. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are plenty of authoritarian regimes that have, denied you access to certain services or denied you rights, but and not issued you an identity card with the right stamp on it, because you weren't subscribing to the orthodoxy of the party or the
Here
or
in
the
New
state.
Zealand?
No, I mean internationally. So we've got lots
Yeah.
of examples of this, right?
Yeah.
So it could be done whether or not it's
doesn't-
digital.
yeah, it doesn't have to be digital. It's just now
Right.
we're at the stage where the world is digitized. Out of the how many 8 billion people in the world,
Yeah.
I'd say a large percentage of the 8 billion would be ingrained into a digital lifestyle.
Right.
So you're right. It doesn't have to necessarily be digital. In around the globe, we've seen it applied other ways, but not within the framework of democracy like what we have. in
Yeah.
New
And
Zealand.
so what I'm trying to kind of get to is what is it specifically about the digital aspect of digital ID that
Well,
that we need to be really vigilant about and concerned at looking at?
yeah, the integration with everyday life now.
Yep.
So things like banking, health, work for many people, access to online.
yeah.
That is huge.
So it's far more easy for bureaucrats or for sort of government agencies to basically just go, no, you can't use this basic system unless you continue to fill out boxes,
Yeah.
tick boxes online, subscribe to this, comply with that. Otherwise, you're locked out of the system effectively.
And the system is not just social media or the internet.
Sure.
The system is banking. You go to the
Right.
supermarket and they say, sorry, your account's closed, frozen, or some people would even say, and there's some whispers about this at the moment around you've used your carbon credits for the
Sure.
day. So in Australia, they've started putting on the label what percentage something is of your carbon daily intake. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah,
Yeah. And so
I saw a senator talking
Yeah.
about it actually,
and
Australian
it's true.
senator.
It's true. It's like the health star rating little logo, but they say consuming this product is X amount of your daily
Right.
carbon intake. Why does that exist?
So that level of state control is obviously just
Yeah.
most people, I think, at this point would agree in New Zealand that's very excessive.
But you introduce that on the argument. They're like, well, it helps people to be more mindful around how much
Sure.
carbon they're producing.
Yep.
But then it becomes a metric that's measured, right? So it stops being mindful. It starts being measured. It starts being like, well, you've actually already had 100% of your carbon intake for the day, so we're not going to allow you to have this product as well.
I mean, you could be denied access to health services. You could be,
100%.
But based on the tracking that is done through your digital ID, because the digital world is way easier.
when you
to
say
track.
tracking, but no, it's not knowing where you are physically. It's
Well,
so
When
much
you combine
as-
it though with what we're seeing in the police in terms of surveillance and in big retailers around.
Sure. Okay. So
Yeah.
that also is another element that comes into it, right?
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that all it could be part of a wider network of control, state control.
So imagine you opt into the system, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I think is the logical endpoint. You opt into the system.
Mm-hmm.
The system now knows everything about you in terms of your personal details, which in some form is already out there, but it's like I say, it's not unified. Now you leave your house and it scans your number plate. We know that these scanning cameras, these AI powered cameras, can know where your car's been for up to 60 days.
Right.
So now they have a log of
How do they know that?
because it's a constant photo capture. So they build a library.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Oh, so you mean to say that?
across a network of
Across a
cameras.
network.
Yeah.
cameras,
So
yeah.
if they have like say 25 cars working
Yeah.
in Auckland City,
Yeah.
and they're constantly going around, kind
Always,
of
yeah.
basically patrolling a certain area of the city, then at some point they will have. If you've been out there driving yourself,
they'll hit you.
You'll have passed at least one of these cars, and probably many times actually over a period of say 30 days.
Yeah.
And then they know, okay, this is where
the
you've
area
been.
you've been.
All
But
right.
Auckland Transport's just bought out these. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
So they've just announced these cars that the wardens don't have to get out of anymore. They just drive around and it
Yeah.
scans every number plate in the car park.
Well, that's why I say there's,
Yeah.
I think 25 of them right
Yeah.
now operating in Auckland City. Yeah.
And for example, the 2 cameras that we do know about raised over $900,000 worth of fines over 2 months, or over 4 months. Sorry. So imagine
good.
this. So you sign up, you leave your house, they know where you've been. You then spend the money, they know what you've spent because they can see you at the retailer, they can check your bank record, and then you write a post that's critical of whoever's in power, which many people do. How many critical Chris Luxon posts do we see every day? Hundreds.
Sure.
Right? But let's say someone less charitable and less benevolent is in power, and now you've made that post, and now your account's locked, your social media account's locked, your bank account's frozen. Actually, if they see you out on the road, they could fine you. Even if and this is, have you seen that movie Leave the World Behind?
Yeah.
That was a very interesting movie because it's like all these vehicles start driving on their own, and there's questions in the UK right now around the buses, right?
Denmark and
Denmark,
where
the
else?
Chinese
UK,
ones?
the
Yeah.
Chinese
Yeah,
electric
yeah.
buses that they can kill switch them. So all of these things is like 5 years ago, this would have been paramount conspiracy talk.
Sure.
Now the infrastructure exists, and that's what
Well, it was the stuff of science fiction, right?
Yeah.
For so many years, and then really, that's the scary thing about science fiction is that so many predictions that are made, whether it's Minority Report or whatever else, like you start getting to the point where there are aspects of these stories that are coming into fruition.
Do you think it's chicken and egg? Like, do you think sci-fi creates these ideas, then people in the real world say, "But what if they did exist?" Or
Well, science fiction depends on something being somehow possible, right? So that
Yeah.
you could logically imagine a world where if there were a few more discoveries made, that the things we already know could then be used in a certain way or changed in a certain way. I've always enjoyed like understanding narrative and theories around narrative, and science fiction is a really interesting kind of genre because of that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that could conceivably happen if a few bits of missing information were found, and filled in the blanks.
Jurassic
Whether
Park,
it's
eh?
sorry,
Jurassic Park.
yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, it's
coming.
there are actually genetic reasons why you couldn't do that.
It's
but
rooted in some
yes,
thought
yeah.
that could be realistic,
Sure,
if it was
sure.
realized.
But I mean, they are actually getting to the point now where they could potentially not resurrect that DNA from
Splice it together
yeah.
with the direwolves, for
yeah,
example.
or just genetically engineer it in such a way that they're basically following what is an incredibly complex code, but they're now be able to fill in segments of the DNA that have been corrupted
That's
by
crazy.
time. So yeah, I mean, there are things here that could conceivably happen. It's, I guess, just coming back to this question of the digital aspect of control. I think a lot of people go, hold on, are you saying that there's like this villain, this mastermind that's going to kind of take over everything? And, how often does Hitler or Stalin really come along in world history? I mean, they end up at the same time, roughly, and, destroy the 20th century for a lot of people. But I guess for most of our existence, there are people that can be good, bad, in between kind of rulers, leaders, government. But it's not often that you see someone come along and they're actually a villain or a mastermind and they kind of control everything.
Yeah, they was coming with good intentions.
Yeah.
Sounding good
And I think
intentions,
that's where a lot of people just go, no, hold on. I don't want to go down this road because that's where it becomes conspiratorial. What about though when it's just a whole lot of people kind of moving in the same kind of direction, partly because of peer pressure, partly because certain kind of philosophical ideas take hold. It could be a safety culture mentality. It could be all these sorts of things that combine and have a cumulative effect, so that you find a country drifting towards a certain type of behavior, a certain type of attitude around, how you should comply or not with the state.
But that there is exactly, I think that's a perfect way to put it. I remember when our firstborn Ezra was born, Deb got really sick, but none of her key markers were spiked enough to warrant concern. But accumulatively, there was enough rise across the board that they should have seen it.
Yeah.
And the doctors didn't see it to the point where she has a seizure. I had to hit the emergency button. You know, she spends 2 days in ICU, all of these things. And they came to us and said, oh, look, you know, there was actually no one indicator that was raised enough for us to be that concerned. But I suppose in retrospect, we could have been concerned because there was an overall rise.
Right.
And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's like, sure, maybe there's not one smoking gun or one really clear alarm, because often there's not until it's way too late.
Yeah.
Until we've all got the armband and we've got the tattoo and we're all subscribed to the whatever it is, you know? And it's like, oh, but if we're not monitoring consistently the principle that underpins all these things and trying to think through a rational, logical endpoint and at least discussing it, as long as the discussion's alive, I think that's really healthy.
I think this is also too why like ministerial responsibility with government and government agencies and departments is so important, because ultimately someone has to have oversight, and they should be the democratically elected representatives that the general population have put in place to keep tabs on people that are in, you know, career roles as bureaucrats. And this comes back to why we kind of started Pillar, right, to some degree, is that we just wanted to remind the average Kiwi that they do have a stake in the democracy, that they should be able to ask questions, to scrutinise, to require transparency and accountability, particularly accountability. And I think we're living in an age where we're outsourcing so many things because, well, life is complex, or it feels more complex now. The world is so complex with technology. It's easy to go, let's give it to the technocrat, you know, like let's give it to the person who knows all about social media, who knows all about, you know, the digital ID verification and so on. And so, like, we do that, but we gradually find ourselves in a position where we haven't been asking the right questions or any questions at all. And then we've moved kind of collectively towards a place where now we're actually quite vulnerable to like ineptitude, to corruption, as we've just seen with the leadership in the police. And we, you know, to data theft, to data manipulation by domestic or foreign, you know, entities, right? By criminal organizations, just by random, you know, by hackers, like whatever's going on. And I think this is there's a lack of a blueprint here that really spells out for the average person what the downsides are and what the advantages are in comparison to the status quo. I think a lot of people just go, well, it's just inevitable that we're going to be doing digital ID. Why? Why should it be inevitable? You know, why should we be moving this in this direction? Not why should it be inevitable, but why is it inevitable, or why should we move in that direction? On this digital ID thing, because I think it's important that we try and at least round off a little bit of what we're talking about on that. And I feel like there's still an aspect we haven't talked about today, and that is what happens to data if it's kept in, say, a single kind of database, a single kind of storage facility, so to speak. How is it vulnerable? Because you could argue, well, there's always been somewhere where information was stored, usually a physical location in, say,
Records,
Wellington, you know, if it's a government department. Could people have broken in and stolen, I don't know, 1 million passport, you know, files?
If they've got an elephant to help them carry it out of there, go for gold.
Right. So that would seem to be a significant difference.
This is a big barrier.
Well, how hard do you think it would be to leak 130 million credentials from Google, for example? Physical credentials.
Sure.
It'd be so hard. Who's going to scan 130 million documents?
Yeah, but what I mean is,
So
if it's already
physical documents.
But let's say it's already. Let's say
it's the scale on which things are vulnerable.
So it's now being collected
digitally
and then stored in, say, one database. Now it's not that hard to steal.
Well, hold on a second there, Nick, because you got to remember it's third party and secure. Okay.
Just for those who haven't noticed, Nathan's being sarcastic.
No, but it's
so really what you're saying is it would be very easy.
It would be very easy,
relatively speaking.
So there is an industry that exists out there for, they say, for secure data collection in regards to identity verification. And I don't disagree with them. They're experts in the area, but I do, without fully agreeing, we should ask questions. Because how many examples do we have to have happen of data breach, data leak? We even saw one with the White House recently.
Sure.
The New Zealand Parliament's been breached right now.
I mean, so that's just that case in the US where it was Trump, Vance, and Harris, all who were running for the presidency at the end of what was it?
24.
Last year now, 24.
It was 24.
Yeah.
And so they were all hacked by these two, kind of like groups that were contracted by China, it's alleged. And there was a congressional investigation into this, and the hearing basically was pretty shocking in the sense that all of these, senators and congresspeople that were privy to the information said this is the worst data breaches, the worst sort of data theft in history in terms of its scale, and also in terms of its reach, because you got people that were now going to be the leaders of the free world whose personal information was now compromised, gone. Now, if that can happen, there's really no limit here to anyone else's data.
But obviously they're huge targets, and that's what a lot of people will brush that off with. Well, I'm not Donald Trump. I'm not JD Vance. I'm not Kamala Harris. No one's interested in me. No, people are interested in you because you are a metric. You're a piece of data in a larger set that is important in the broader picture. So everyday people should be concerned about.
Well, they
this.
also underestimate just how extensive the kind of vacuuming process is, right? Because some of these groups, some of these groups, right, that have hacked into these databases, basically can take millions and millions of identities
and then hold it ransom.
Okay.
Do you know John McPhee?
Or manipulate it.
What's his name? John McPhee? Is that what I'm thinking of? The guy who made the malware software. And then he just sent a bunch of laptops to the White House. McAfee,
yeah.
And he sent all of those laptops to the White House.
Right.
And they just handed them out to their staffers. And they're like, oh, this is amazing. And then he just scraped everything.
That's insane.
And he's dead now.
Was that just to prove a point?
He had deep distrust in the state and was like just showing how easy it was to get these people.
That kind of doesn't help though. This in the sense the state then distrusts people like McAfee. But
the question you're asking is effectively why digital ID is anything different. Is it
because there's so much. All of our data is out there. Like your passport has all of your data. You've just got your face. Your driver's license has your face. It's got biometrics. Real Me has your address. Like all of our data is out there. So I think I don't know if this is where you're going.
Yeah, coming back to where we were talking before.
Why one is digital ID different, and why are we worried about privacy issues?
Not just privacy issues. I'm worried about the manipulation of data, digital data.
How so?
Well, because with the way that AI is now advanced, and with the kinds
rise
of
to put your face on something, and
with the rise of like criminal organizations, but also criminal organizations that are contracted by foreign governments to steal data or to hack into systems that they can actually start manipulating the data. And they can also, and I've seen quite a bit of research on this now, there's a lot that they can do having manipulated the data. They can then cover their tracks. So you don't know, there's no kind of paper trail. There's no like evidence that there's been manipulation in many instances. And so, it's always going to be like a kind of a game of trying to catch up or, stay one step ahead of this type of threat.
Right.
And I think we're at a point where you could have your profile, your digital profile, your ID, manipulated to a point where you're framed for any crime that the person who's messing with your data wants to frame you for. You could be in a digital sense put at the scene of the crime with your digital fingerprints all over it.
Yeah. Well,
what restrictions do we have, or what limitations are there in place to prevent that type of thing from happening?
Well, they say a verified digital ID that you have that tracks only your movement, right?
But
that's
again,
the solution. But they can.
But see, I can largely
Spider-Man meme.
the average if the average citizen's worried about their ID, then just I think, in my view, at this point in time, with what we know, just say, look, I'm not prepared to submit my data to a digital capture and sort of storage process when I know where my passport is at home. And if someone wants to come and steal it, they can try and break into my house and steal it. But do that to try and do that to 5 million people.
But
right?
I think the point is that DIA has your passport information.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is
But
that.
I trust Brooke Van Velden with my life.
Well,
But I'm saying that we've already kind of started getting into that territory, and so before my passport previously to the one I have now was not didn't involve me going through the the
smart
e-gate,
gates.
the smart gate, and so there was more of an analog process involved. Now, yes, they could still store some information online, but the point is they couldn't frame me in the way that for something if someone wanted to. And again, it doesn't have to be our own government; it could be someone else. So that's where extortion comes in, but that's also where national security threats come in.
So one of the big arguments, like you reminded me of, is convenience and the e-gates with passports and things like that. And Arian, I think it's really important to point out we can actually be locked out of life as it is right now without digital ID. Like we know bank accounts can be frozen.
Debanking has been happening for years.
Debanking has been happening. We know that visas can be declined or denied. We know that
That's openly happening.
It's openly happening, and on a scale where it's happening to a very small percentage. What digital ID and what you described, Nick, there around being framed, that's only one very serious issue that could happen, right? And I totally agree with you. Yeah. But the other ones that exist out there, for example, like what I was talking about, it creates a barrier, not just to participation and entry, but to be included in all aspects of life that are even some way lightly digitally connected, as PayWave or FPOS and all these things. And they can do it on a scale much larger than selectively having to lawfully look into individuals. So it bypasses the checks and balances that exist already. So what they can do is they can just, for example, and this is where you can get false flagged or wrongly picked up. They put a keyword in, and anyone who's used the keyword in a social media post in the last 48 hours, boom, they're cut off for a period of time
from access to social media because you need your ID to log into
not even just social media.
No, I know, totally.
And anyone who's given to this charity that we now disagree with this charity, say you gave to Family First, right? Anyone who's funding Family First, freeze their accounts. The Canadian truckers are a great example of that. AI and digital ID just makes that system so much more powerful and unregulated by, because there's human error that comes into things.
Sure.
But then this AI is like not discerning at all. It doesn't have any ability to understand nuance and things like that. So it just catches everything and everyone, and it's not 100% accurate.
And I think what you're saying is that isn't necessarily going to happen, but it makes it so easy to happen so quickly.
Well, I think it's going to happen in some places at certain times, right?
And, just on I was just going to say, just on even banking, you've got now in the banking sector, you've got your know your customer laws, which is who are you dealing with. You've got your AL, so that's your know your customer, and then you've got your AML, which is the anti-money laundering laws as well, which is just growing and growing to make sure that banks comply with anti-money laundering. And then you also have your ESG goals, which is the environmental, social governance goals that banks and all corporates around the world have to deal with.
That's the worst thing.
Yeah, but these are value-based systems that are the guiding. And then you've got your, well, less so nowadays, but your DEI stuff. And so all this requires data to be enforced, right? Whether it's DEI or ESG or AML. Once you have this digital ID system in place, and the Reserve Bank last year did their consultation on central bank digital currencies as well, which can be encrypted to be used in specific ways. Once you have all of that in place, then the incentive to use digital ID is so much higher, and to use it in ways that targets behavior is so much easier. So I think that's a real concern. That's the concern.
But that's the thing, right? It's a subjective gate. So they can
target. Define what you mean by that.
The age one is the best example that I brought up at the start. So subjectively, it's are you over 16? But then what's to stop it from changing that subjective measurement to do you have the right opinions, thoughts? Are you of the right demographic, location, all these things? So it's a measure that is sliding. They can move it. Where if there's already objective standards with the banking, for example, where if you're doing money laundering, that's objective. They can trace that, track that, measure that. Yeah, and then your account's frozen or deleted, But then when it's like, well, we're basing it on these DEI things, and you've contacted us to tell us you don't like the fact that we don't, and this is the case that we know of. With KiwiBank, we don't like the feedback you gave in our requested feedback form. Therefore, we're going to consider shutting down your account. So it's just the digital ID and AI and all these things just make that system like on steroids.
I think, just tell me what you guys think. I think a lot of it just comes down to governance, like how are we going to govern the system, but there's a governance and choice. In my head, I think as long you can have a digital ID system, as long as it's well governed.
But what do you mean by that?
That's everything.
Well, exactly. That is everything. That's what we have at the moment. We have a police system.
Yeah,
We have a banking system. The
I
government
agree
can
in
do
the
all of
sense.
this.
I agree in the sense that you still need wise, accountable, trustworthy people, as far as possible, with some integrity.
Yeah.
Running a system, and by that we're saying actually stick to the rules that everyone has agreed, because it's a democracy. We've said, well, we want it run a certain way. You better do that. Okay, if they do that, that's cool. The problem, I think, is just all of the malicious actors that can tap into this space. So even if you do have people that are relatively trustworthy and held to
Like
sort of a system,
domestically, for
they're
example,
held to account domestically, you still open yourself up to, international crime syndicates that steal data, those that do it on behalf of a foreign government, all that kind of stuff. And that's where I'm really concerned. And I think it's that type of manipulation and extortion that would really create havoc.
The foreign element of it.
In a place like New Zealand. Yeah, because there is no jurisdiction that can control that type of behavior. And even if you can then go, okay, well, we know who was responsible, we can't do anything about it.
Do you know what's tough as well is finding these people who are good people. Even that's a contentious term, or who we can trust. The only way to really do this where people are still in charge without signing it to AI and everything is to have regular transparency and accountability, and have people informed. But unfortunately, we've seen
not centralize too much power in the hands of one person. Or a small group of people.
And unfortunately, what we've seen in the last 48 hours now is that even these people
New Zealand Police,
with Javon McSkimming or whatever his name was,
and Andrew Costa,
Andrew Costa's someone that
people looked up to,
people really thought highly of him,
and three other senior
officers,
police executive,
and now it's like, well, what are we doing? Is there such thing as a good person? Well, no, we don't believe that fundamentally.
Although encouragingly, there were at least three senior officers that, when they became aware of some of what was going on, they started saying, "No, this isn't right."
Up,
So that gives us some hope that there are still people prepared to do the right thing in these situations, which comes back to my point before about decision making. People could be good, they could be bad. That's one way of looking at it. But I think in the end, it's about the next decision you make, right? That's what matters.
You have to judge people not on the basis of what they have done, but what they're currently doing, right?
Well, to some degree, you can kind of look at what they've done, right, as a track record, and say, well, they have shown, generally speaking, that they can be trusted with something.
Yeah,
but they're only as good in one sense as their next decision.
But this is what I'm trying to say. Every time I hear Mike Hosking on his show talk about the investment Kiwis, everything that he recommends, he always has to include the clause previous performance, not an indicator of future performance.
Right.
Or previous success.
Yeah.
And I think that when we fall into that trap of letting people rest on their laurels and morals and what they've done in the previous season, we create a void of accountability or a void of transparency because, they wouldn't do that. We know them,
so if we only rely on the track record, right?
Yeah.
And then there are no checks and balances and accountability going forward, then of course that's setting ourselves up. That's being naive. So I totally agree. Yeah. But I wouldn't say that we ignore the past, right?
Previous, obviously you have to be qualified. Otherwise, then we just end up on the other end, which is DEI.
Yeah. You're not gonna necessarily hire a convicted fraudster to do your taxes for you.
Unless he was pretty good at it.
Sorry?
Unless he was pretty good at it, then you might get him.
If you're the mafia, then you want this guy to cook your books. Yes, you probably want that guy to cook your books.
We're not endorsing any sort of tax fraud here at Pillar, and just want everyone to know that it was a joke from me, and I'm sorry. Told jokes. Sorry. I also want to just clarify for all of those who were not watching but just listening, I don't trust Brooke Van Velden with my life. That was also a joke. Arian laughed, but I realised you don't know that. So let me just make that clear. Any final thoughts, feelings? Anyone want to get anything off their chest? Arian, good to have Sarah back in the country.
Very good. Welcome back, Sarah.
Welcome back, Sarah.
Girlfriend.
Oh, and we need to shout out Nadia because I was talking to her yesterday and she said she wants a shout out on the podcast. Or she said she would listen, but she's going to get a shout out. So Nadia, shout out to you. Great job.
You made it this far.
Yeah, if you made it this far, just skip to I'll text her and tell her to skip to the end. Go right to the end.
Go to this time.
And it's a shout out. A slow outro today.
Okay, I can do a slow outro. Any final comments? Everyone said their piece. Any more racist comments? Any more?
I'm all talked out.
Yeah. Why are you saying that we would have racist comments? You're the one who, as soon as the recording stops.
All right, look, time to end it. Thank you all for watching and listening. As always, stay in touch. Oh, and sign up to the. What do you call it? Updates. Sign up to our updates. The updates come into our email. Yeah.
Because people get a mailing list. People want to be on mailing lists.
Right.
You want to be on an updates list.
Subscribe
to our
list.
It is a list.
Just say, hey everybody, if you want to know what's happening at Pillar, make sure you sign up to our updates and subscribe on our website.
If you care about our democracy, you need to be on our emailing list because that's where the news is. Get over it. Yeah, you can get over the naming of it. It's called an emailing list. It's going to come into your emails on a Wednesday and a Saturday. So sign up, and there's some really good stuff there.
I've had so much feedback recently about how much people love you.
Oh, that's really kind.
So many people were like, so mean to Arian. Like, he's the best. We love him. My sister said you're the husband that everyone deserves.
I saw that in the comments. I thought, wow, that's very. What's her name?
Carla.
Thank you, Carla. We love you.
She thinks that you're great. So I'm sorry. I'm being hard on you. Everyone else likes you.
Thank you.
We actually haven't let you do an outro without interrupting.
Oh, that's because he's slow, mate. This is
He gets to regather his thoughts every time we interrupt.
Yeah, I have to figure out what I want to say. But anyway, stay in touch, stay in tune. We'll talk to you soon.
Stay in tune.
Yeah, stay in tune, everyone.